You're a Russian assault group moving up before dawn, the frost biting through your gloves. The order is simple: step off, probe, fix, force the contact. Except the ground ahead isn't ground anymore. It's a machine. A 2-kilometer drone wall that thinks, hunts, and never sleeps. You haven't even seen a trench line, and already the air is buzzing, the sky is watching, and your radio has gone from crackle to dead silence. Azov has turned this sector into a technological hell Russia should not be able to cross, and yet keeps trying. For a decade, the name Azov carried a certain myth: hard fighting, high morale, the last to break, the first to counterpunch. That reputation hasn't faded, it's evolved. The modern formation, now part of Ukraine's National Guard, has spent the last 2 years fusing reconnaissance drones, FPV strike teams, smart software, and ground robots into a single, layered kill system. This isn't a single trick or a flashy gadget. It's an operating concept, a deep, continuous buffer of machines that devours assaults before they touch Ukrainian infantry. When Ukraine's president says more than 80% of enemy targets are now destroyed by drones, he's describing the logical endpoint of this approach: machines taking the attrition so soldiers don't have to. Azov didn't invent drones or battlefield robotics. What they have mastered is knitting them together. In mid-2025, Azov's Unmanned Systems Battalion openly described its method: build a buffer between enemy assault groups and your own lines. 1 to 2 kilometers of unmanned kill space that you own 24/7. Recon eyes find, software marks, FPVs strike in waves, ground robots mop up, artillery clamps the assembly areas. The battalion commander put it bluntly: the task is to save infantry lives by preventing the enemy from ever reaching infantry in the first place. That 1 to 2 kilometer machine buffer is the spine of this doctrine. Zoom out, and you see how it fits Ukraine's wider transformation. Kyiv built an entire branch, the Unmanned Systems Forces, to standardize tactics and accelerate innovation around drones and robots. Analysts at CSIS flagged it as the first of its kind, a service arm dedicated to unmanned warfare inside a country fighting a high-end land war. It isn't that every drone reports to this branch. Many units still run their own. It's that the lessons learned, what works at 500 meters versus 5 kilometers, which frequencies survive jamming, how to combine fiber optic FPVs with loiterers, are captured and pushed back to the line. The result is pace: iterate, codify, redeploy. And in the sectors where Azov operates, Pokrovsk, Toretsk, the hard edges of Donetsk, that pace is now Russia's nightmare. So how does an Azov-style kill zone actually work? Start with the surveillance net. It's not a drone, it's a lattice. Commercial quads, dedicated recon UAVs, fixed-wing scouts orbiting at depth, all stitched by radios and repeaters. They map footpaths, ditch lines, vehicle ruts, and every place Russians like to stage a platoon. The map isn't static, it's alive. The moment a cluster of heat signatures appears in a tree line, or a BMP creeps forward under camouflage nets, the coordinates roll to a command cell that exists to do one thing: convert pixels into dead movement. From there, the strike engines spin up. FPV teams are stacked by task: anti-infantry, anti-armor, anti-EW, and by range. First wave, fast movers with shaped charges. Second wave, heavier birds for those who bail or huddle. Third wave, chase drones to finish anyone who runs. In some sectors, Ukrainian sources say a single target may draw 5, 8, or even a dozen drones, because the cost is trivial compared to the cost of letting that target reach the line. If a survivor crawls, a ground robot, tracked, low, brutal, trundles in to drop a charge or spray a burst. Meanwhile, pre-sighted artillery and mortars slam the assembly area the target came from, punishing not just the spear point, but the hand that threw it. If you're enjoying this video, hit that like and subscribe button right now. Now take that mechanism and make it deep. In Kupiansk, Ukrainian officials and analysts describe a robotic kill zone that smothers vehicle movement out to 20 to 25 kilometers, while strangling infantry mobility within the last kilometer to the front. One think tank called it potent if scaled. Deny vehicles past 50 kilometers, and you force Russian infantry to walk into a machine storm. The figure that keeps circulating from the unit running that sector, Orion, is stark. Up to 88% of Russian assault elements eliminated before they ever get near Ukrainian positions. Numbers like that are why Russian attacks there slowed to a crawl, and often just broke. Here's the part that twists the knife. This isn't only about the sky anymore. Ukraine is standing up dedicated ground robot formations and weaving them into the kill zones. Iron soldiers that haul munitions, lay mines, or mount weapons, all while keeping humans under cover. One combat unit under the 3rd Assault Brigade even formalized an entire UGV detachment last year, and defense officials say more are coming. The benefits are obvious. A robot doesn't get tired, doesn't panic under shelling, and doesn't need a tourniquet. It just needs power, a signal, and a target. Enough theory. Walk the line. Imagine you're a Russian assault group again, waiting in a sunken lane before first light. It's quiet, except for the buzzing you pretend you can't hear. You step off, one file, then another, across frozen ground that looks dead and is anything but. 200 meters in, the first recon quad drifts over you at treetop height. You flatten. Someone whispers that EW will handle it. It doesn't. A minute later, the air cracks, low, insect fast, and the lead man simply vanishes into dust. Another swarm peels in, not at your formation but behind it, where your section leader left a resupply sack and a wounded man earlier. Now you're cut from the rear, and your radio dies for real. No squelch, no nothing. You kneel because there's nothing else to do. The second wave finds your thermal plume under a bush. Then the third wave arrives for anyone who moved after wave 2. That's what a 2-kilometer drone wall feels like. You haven't seen a trench, you haven't fired a shot, and yet your world is closing in, meter by meter, to the edge where you started. On Azov's side, the atmosphere is cold and methodical. A drone operator in a dugout calls a correction to a teammate. Too close to the hedgerow, drop 5 meters. A lieutenant circles a grid on a tablet, the assembly area for a second wave of Russians trying to flank, and kicks it to the battery behind him. The dugout shudders as outgoing rounds bracket the cops. A second monitor shows a ground robot nosing forward, thermal camera glowing, its operator steering it to a shape in the grass. Not cinematic, not glorious, just precise. This is how you replace classic manpower-heavy defense with machines. Push the fight out of bayonet range and let robots do the bleeding. The results are showing up in Ukraine's own statistics. Kyiv says drones now account for more than 4 out of every 5 successful strikes across the war. Independent coverage of those claims highlights how Ukraine verifies hits with video and incentivizes units with a points for performance marketplace. Gamified, yes, but brutally effective at scaling what works. If your method is repeatable and filmed, you get more drones. That feedback loop rewards exactly the kind of integrated, layered kill zone Azov runs. There's a second reason this works. It fits the enemy. Russia's current offensive style is mass under the cover of artillery. Short, savage jumps by small assault groups, repeated until something cracks. Against a thinking no man's land, those jumps turn into free throws for machines. Analysts tracking the Pokrovsk axis have described it in bleak terms. There is no front line anymore, just one large kill zone, 5 to 20 kilometers deep on both sides, where recon UAVs, strike drones, mortars, and artillery combine to throttle movement. Soldiers who make it through describe being chased by drones that feel personal, like the sky picked you. That is by design. If this sounds familiar, it should. This channel's past deep dives showed how Ukraine's wider drone revolution, millions of cheap FPVs, thousands of sorties a day, is tearing up Russia's assault math, and how, in Kupiansk, a robot curtain all but erased Russian mobility. What Azov has done is take that revolution and put a regimental face on it. Doctrine, not improvisation. Belts and layers, not one-off stunts. Let's run a realistic assault day to see the full picture. Dawn. Russian companies mass in defilade 2 kilometers back, vehicles deeper. Ukrainian recon drones already have them pinned. The command post flags not the soldiers, but the logistics. The ammo pallets near a tree line, the gas truck idling behind a farmhouse, the medical pickup hidden by a barn. The idea is simple. Cut the nerves before you cut the muscle. H30. EW heats up on both sides. Russia tries to carve a corridor. Ukraine counters, shifting frequencies and swapping to fiber optic control on key FPVs. The recon net thickens. A small Ukrainian team watches a narrow dirt track. They've marked it the kill corridor because it's where Russians always try to slip a squad. H10. The first assault group steps off. FPVs pop like hornets, 3 at the front, 2 at the last man, 1 searching for the radio carrier. Survivors pause, as they always do, under the only thick bush for 100 meters. A team tracking heat patterns sees the cluster. Another wave. A man runs. A chase drone arcs, drops, and the thermal signature goes still. H-0. Artillery opens on the second echelon staging area, pre-registered, pre-timed. It isn't mass casualties, it's dislocation. People dig instead of moving. Radios go from plan to chaos. Some units step off too early, others too late. That's fine. The belt doesn't care which one you are. H+20. A ground robot crawls down a ditch toward a culvert that has eaten a lot of Russians this month. It drops a shaped charge and backs out. A minute later, the culvert is no longer a culvert, and the ditch becomes a bowl of water and clay. The map updates automatically. Impassable. H+50. What's left of the assault batch buckles into low ground, 800 meters from Ukrainian positions. That was the plan. Azov's plan. Pull them into the 2-kilometer machine belt, hold them there, and let fatigue, cold, and fear do their work. Only now do infantry squads rotate to forward holes. They spend minutes doing what used to take hours, because the machines did the damage already. That's the day. Not heroic, not clean, just repeatable. And it repeats every time Russia tries to brute force its way into a sector that Azov holds. 2 numbers, the ones that keep popping up, explain the impact. First, 2 kilometers. That is the depth of the persistent drone wall Azov aims to maintain immediately in front of its positions. The buffer that forces contact with machines, not men. Second, 88%. That is the claimed proportion of attacking units destroyed or stopped before reaching Ukrainian trenches in the kill zone model that inspired this approach. Even if you cut that figure, the asymmetry is savage. Russia bleeds squads and vehicles. Azov expends drones and battery packs. And on a good day, your infantry never lifts a rifle. To be clear, Russia isn't blind to this. ISW noted that Moscow has begun targeting Ukrainian drone operators and nodes to punch temporary holes in Ukraine's wall of drones. It's a grim cat and mouse. Suppress the operators, rush a company through the gap, hope the belt is thin today. Some days it works in one direction or another. War isn't a spreadsheet. But the deeper Ukraine pushes the unmanned belts, the more costly those sprints become. And Azov isn't alone anymore. The method is spreading. The President's office and Ukrainian media have showcased units across the front, layering recon, FPV, and artillery into broader kill areas that extend beyond the contact line. The language keeps converging. Wall, curtain, belt, buffer. Analysts like Mick Ryan have argued it's how you solve a manpower gap, replace massed infantry with massed, cheap machines. That is exactly how Azov is preserving people while grinding down assaults. There's also the psychological weight. If you're a Russian soldier in the Pokrovsk sector, you've heard the stories. Drones that seem to pick you out of a crowd. Ground robots rolling up like nightmares on treads. The day Zelensky visited troops near Pokrovsk last fall, he met the very formations, Azov among them, holding the line under this method. The message was simple. Keep the belts deep, keep the belts thick, and attrit until the attack bleeds out. A second-person moment, inside the zone. You crawl because everyone crawls now. The snow stings your cheeks. Your unit is down a third, and you haven't fired a round. You can almost see the line ahead, dark soil, a sagging tree. Someone whispers that if you make a sprint, you'll be inside grenade range. You nod. You count to 3. You run. The drone that was waiting for you was already airborne. That's the terror the machines impose. Not the blast itself, but the knowledge that the sky saw you decide. So where does this go next? Deeper, wider, faster, deeper. Azov's belts already push 2 kilometers. Kupiansk-style interdiction suggests 25 and even 50 kilometers of denied vehicle movement is possible with enough drones and EW. Wider, other brigades are copying the stack: recon nets, FPV swarms, ground robots, and pre-registered fires. Because the cost curves demand it. Faster. Every verified kill earns more drones under Ukraine's points for performance system, and every video becomes a tutorial that somebody else can replicate tomorrow. A virtuous circle, unless you're the one trying to cross it. None of this means the fight is easy. Russia adapts. It learned to push small infiltration groups through folds in the ground, and to saturate single roads with hundreds of FPVs a day, especially around Pokrovsk. It is trying to knock out the drone pilots and jam the links that make the belt cohere. And there are days and weeks when Ukrainian units fall back, when the curtain is thin, when the weather wins. But the direction of travel favors the defender, who treats his front not as a line of men, but as a machine ecosystem. That is Azov's real mastery.
One last immersion, this time from the other side of the dugout. You're an Azov operator, snug behind 2 layers of sandbags, your screen framed by gaffer tape and a coffee cup gone cold. The feed is monochrome and strange. White heat where a man breathes, a darker cut where a stream runs under ice. The call comes in, 2 groups moving, 15 in the lead, 10 behind. You nod to your wingman and the 2 of you load, arm, and launch. The drone climbs with that same angry bee whine, and the world shrinks to a wobbling crosshair. You aren't thinking politics. You're thinking about clearing the belt before your rotation ends and someone else takes your stool. A minute later, you line up a huddle of shapes under a tangle of brush and nudge the stick forward. The last thing you hear before the static is someone chuckling behind you. They really should stop trying to cross this thing. It's not a joke so much as a sigh. That's the war Azov is building. Machines against mass, patience against momentum. And here's the big picture. If a 2-kilometer drone wall can erase the classic last 500 meters of an assault, if an integrated robot army can delete 80% of viable targets before a rifleman even sees them, then Russia's ability to attack anywhere on the front becomes a math problem it cannot solve at an acceptable cost. It can still try, of course, and it will. But each attempt pays into Ukraine's account. More video, more drones, more practice, more belts. Every month, the system gets a little smarter, a little deeper, a little more automatic. That's the point. Azov didn't just master a gadget, they mastered a method. And it's tearing Russia apart where it matters most. At the moment where an army must break through or break down. If you want more deep dive frontline analysis, maps, drone footage, and the hard numbers behind the headlines, hit subscribe. We're tracking every evolution of Ukraine's robot war, and the next one might be the moment the machines make the breakthrough.